Hi, friends. This is Wendy Harrop, and welcome to the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. On the Say Yes to Yourself podcast, you'll hear stories from women just like us who are adding the practice of saying yes in their daily lives in big and small ways, and as a result, are experiencing the truth that everybody wins when you say yes to yourself. Saying yes to yourself is a graceful unfolding, an intentional becoming of the very best version of you. It is my hope that in these conversations, we are able to find our truth and be inspired and empowered to live our very best lives. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you, and I look forward to finding a bit of our own story in each other's. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the podcast. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're having an amazing week. It has been so glorious here. I'm telling you, if you have it in your heart to come visit the Phineas Wright House, I cannot recommend end of May and June as an ideal time to be here. The weather is glorious. The peonies are glorious. It's just so fabulous. In fact, tonight I have a barn dinner for 10 moms. I'm so excited to celebrate them and create a beautiful, fabulous feast for them as well. It's all just so good. So fun. What are you up to? I want to know. You can DM me on Instagram and tell me that you listen to this podcast. Tell me what you're doing this weekend. Tell me all the things. I'd really love to know what is bringing you joy and delight and what is filling your days. I am loving these conversations. I'm meeting the most amazing women. I know I bring them together for the summits as well. I'm eager for the one that's coming up, but I'm really excited to share today's conversation with you. Our guest is so lovely. Her name is Georgi Enthoven. And if you're seated next to her at dinner, she is likely to ask what you care about versus what you do. Georgi Enthoven is an international thought leader, trusted advisor, and first-time author of Work That's Worth It. Her debut book guides individuals on transformative journeys to fill their career hours with significance, benefiting both themselves and the world. An optimist at heart, Georgi excels at recognizing potential in others. She passionately believes that business can be a powerful force for positive change, driving her to elevate empathetic and kind-hearted individuals into leadership roles. Driven by a passion for contribution and a relentless focus on solving real-world problems, she has worked with organizations as a founder, operating in executive roles and board positions, both for profit and not for profits. She is such a delight. I know you are going to love this conversation with Georgi Enthoven. Georgi, I am already completely delighted by our time together. I'm so excited for this conversation. Thank you for being here.
Oh, Wendy, I'm excited to be here as well. Thank you so much for having me.
It's so fun. I am loving these conversations. And you're a podcaster also. This is just such a fun medium to connect with people and to connect. Not only do I get to connect with you and all the other amazing women that I'm having conversations with, but also the really deep, intimate connection with our listener, because we are in their ears for a really long time every week. And it's such a beautiful honor and a gift.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I actually think of podcasting is how I would describe it is I get to shine the light on beautiful people. Yeah, and that
Which is like my favorite thing to
do. Yes, I can imagine.
Oh, it's so fun. I'm really excited to have this conversation, but I would love to start with hearing how you're saying yes to yourself in this season.
Yeah, my word for this year for me is expansion. And
Mm.
last year was bravery, and I picked expansion, and that's what I'm saying yes to make sure, because I notice that sometimes, like, I will hold myself back from opportunities to be more expansive. And like somebody will offer something, and I'll say, "Oh yeah, okay, I'll get back to you." Instead of being like, "Hell yes, yes," that fits it.
Right.
That fits it. So that is my theme for 2025 for this year. So that is what I'm saying yes to, consciously saying yes to.
I love that. Can you say more if you want to?
Yeah,
What makes you think, or what makes you not jump on the hell yes? Or in the past, what made you?
yeah. I mean, I think it's part of it is programming and
Mm,
conditioning of not taking up too much space. And then part of it is just I guess I'm quite a thoughtful person, and I like to sort of chew on something and think about it for a while before and sort of see how it feels to me before I go ahead. But I've noticed that there's some things that there's just no way that it'll come up no, but I still am
mhm,
holding back. And so I would say it probably has to do with programming. I was born in South Africa, and raised there for my first 11 years to South African parents. And it was during the 1970s, the 80s at that time. And women were definitely, I don't want to say groomed, but yeah, to look after everybody, to not take up so much space, to be the good girl. And so sometimes that expansion feels like maybe it's taking too much of the limelight. And so maybe that is part of it. I mean, that's what I would imagine is is
mhm.
happening under the covers.
Right. Oh my gosh, thank you for that. That's so generous of you. And I completely relate to that conditioning. I did not grow up in South Africa. I grew up in Southern California, and there was still um, a a guidance to be the good girl and to stay small, to the point. And again, like, no shade on my parents at all. Like, we're all doing the best we can with the tools we have. And I was interpreting these messages as a 5-year old. So it wasn't
100%.
like I'm my 55-year-old self taking in this information with all the other extenuating circumstances. So I just say that because my mom listens, and I don't want her to think that I'm complaining about my
Yeah.
childhood every single week, because I'm not.
No, I mean it was cultural. So it was, even
Right.
if your family was different, it was cultural. And I have three children, and I have an 18-year-old daughter, and she was just doing her college essays, and one of them she was saying, "My mom always told me that I need to turn to take the best cookie." Because I think when I was growing up, it was like you waited for everybody else, and if you were going to
Mm-hmm.
take one, you took the small one.
Right.
And I have brought her up to be a lot bolder and to take the best cookie, but she's fully aware of the conditioning as well culturally
Ah.
for women and how that affects her. So, like an example for her, she would say, like at camp, she's a counselor, and the girls just do a lot more work,
Hmm.
and the boys kind of just show up, and then the girls have the whole plan organized and everything, and they just say, okay, this is what you need to do, and they go and do it. But the girls are carrying so much more even at that early age. So
Wow.
she's very aware of it. And but I like the idea of you can take the best cookie.
Right? Oh my gosh, that's so fascinating. And I love that you even mentioned that. I am the mother of an 11-year-old daughter, and she's an only child. And I always tell her, ooh, pick the best one. But I do that because I find that in the early years, because I was childless for 48 years, we adopted her from China when she was 2. And so I had a cadence of how I did things, and it was a little faster than a 2-year-old did it. So I would say pick the best one to temper my lack of patience. so that I felt it was like my idea that she was taking so long because I encouraged her to pick the best one. So it just helped me show up better.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
But
But
I
in the
love
meantime, maybe
that.
it's good messaging.
It's such good messaging. And I love that I still say that now that she's 11 and she's taking her time and she's so mindful. And she is a good girl. She just is.
Yeah.
And she's also allowed to want and encouraged to
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
and to feel all the feelings.
That's so important. And in the work that I do, I work mostly with young professionals and helping them really use business as a force for good. And this good girl conditioning, if you're doing it at home, you're doing it at work.
Right.
And what motivates me is that I see these amazing people, and it's not just women, but the kindest, most generous of spirit people end up playing smaller. And in the world we have today, we really need to give them a bigger stage. And so that good girl conditioning of being liked gets
Mm-hmm.
in the way of how big they
Yeah.
can play and the space they can take up. And, I think, how do you swap being liked to being respected?
Mm,
I mean, that seems like it's a trade that people, when they see that, they're like, okay, I can do that. I can take that leap. But
right.
just to give it up feels too scary because it's part of their identity. But to be respected is ultimately even more exciting for
Right?
these young people who want to do amazing things and really
Yeah.
help people in the world and use business as a force for good. But
Mm.
it plays in.
And it's so great that you are bridging this gap, this generational gap, but also able to see the leaps and bounds and see some of the similarities as well. It's interesting when you said that they want to be liked. We want to be liked. It doesn't really matter how old you are, um, and how that has so much to do with the other person has the action in that exchange. And I found it interesting when you said that it wasn't necessarily a part of my filter, wasn't as much to be liked as it was to be pleasing, where the other person doesn't have to do anything about that. They don't have to like me. It makes me work 10 times harder to be
Yes.
pleasing because now I also have to read their mind to figure out what would be
Yes.
pleasing. It was I'm like completely
It's
self-abandoned.
exhausting. Yes.
Yes. And to
Yeah.
be self-abandoned yet so in my own way and in my own head, it's just ugh. I love
Yeah.
being 50 and I
Yeah.
love that you are engaging with these young people as they are stepping into their careers, stepping into their movement to
Yeah.
these big, beautiful social enterprises and able to not parent them, but you have a bird's eye view.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. I really love the work and like yeah, you see it in like little ways. Like for instance, I had a client I was working with that worked for a not-for-profit. She came from a very good university and her job after was to work for a not-for-profit to end factory farming. And
Oh,
she
wow.
had a really small platform and she was maybe sort of educating 100 people in the year and putting a lot of work in, working full time. And when I asked her, what is the biggest footprint that you would like to have? And she obviously had dreams for something way bigger. And I said, how are you going to do it in this platform? And she said, I don't know. Like, I don't think I can. And I said, would you consider for profit? In this
Mm,
particular case, is there something that you would consider? And she said, no, no, I can't. Like, that would be selling out. And I said, selling out in what way? Like, what if you're impacting more deeply to something that you care about? And she like needed some examples. And I said, just consider it. Like you've got so many people investing in regenerative farming and on all different levels. And so that is something to consider because you're building something positive versus fighting something negative, which
Right.
isn't always the way to be bigger, but it is sometimes the way to be bigger. And
Hmm.
sometimes not-for-profits are your best way to have the biggest impact, like a Khan Academy or something like that. But the for-profit, not-for-profit is just really a structure, but I find people sort of get stuck behind those structures, and
Sure.
it ends up giving them a lot smaller opportunity to impact what their ultimate goal is. And so, yeah, it is interesting how we sort of, there's external factors and internal factors that hold us back, but I find that the internal factors are, well, first, it's something we can control if you can get to the bottom of it, but
Sure.
it's most often that's what we're up against.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. So I have so many questions. Um, how would she move from a not-for-profit to a for-profit business model? Because we were talking a little bit before I hit record about my friend's 501c3 LMU girls, and there comes a point where you have a big mission, and then you get in there and you start doing things, and then you're having a great impact, and then you have even bigger dreams for it, but the program itself is kind of contained. It can
Yeah.
only get so big. So that transition, besides the mindset transition of, oh, no, it's only noble if it's not for profit. Um, sometimes we actually make, more
Yeah.
money in that way.
Yeah.
But how does that work?
Well, first off, one of the things that I really believe in, and this would go with coaching etiquette, is I don't have the answers for people. We can look at pathways others have taken,
Sure.
but I don't know what's best for any other individual. And I
Right.
really believe that because within them is all their history, their perspective, their circumstances. And so what works for one person is not necessarily what's going to work for the next. So there is a part that is opening up your aperture and curiosity
Yeah.
of what else could it look like. So I think the first step there is really thinking about the vision you have. Like, what
Yeah.
is the bigger vision? So if it's to end factory farming, then how do you do that? How is the fastest, most effective way that you can do that? And in order to do that, you're going to have to switch some big systems. So you
Hmm.
can tackle that legally. You can raise money to start for-profit businesses that are like growing produce that's all with regenerative farming. You can, I mean, there's a whole bunch of different ways you can do it.
Sure.
So I think the important piece is there isn't a one size fits all. Like it would start off with you really having a vision for what you want. And I think of, well, I love the idea of thinking about your contribution as part of your
Mm.
career. And it's one of the pillars, but it would be what do you want to be known for? What is the
Yeah.
contribution you want to make in the world? And I think having that clear, it makes it actually really easy to what you're saying yes to and no to, where we started off in the
Right.
conversation. And if you think of someone like a Jane Goodall, she's so extraordinary and amazing. And
Hmm.
she's had such an impact on our world.
Yes.
But her focus has been pretty narrow and clear. So she's such a great influence that she could get pulled in so many different directions,
Hmm.
but that dilutes her one main message. And
Yeah.
so I think looking at her as an example, getting your direction right is so important. And that is something you can experiment with when you start out in your career. But, for women who are later in their lives and find themselves with more time, having a direction for yourself and how you want to spend that time as well is just as important and very invigorating. And yeah, I think that's an important piece. And when I work with people, like there's different stages of this. So it could be just having one word. Like, is there one word that like I'll say yes to helping women?
Yeah.
Or is it two words, women in Mexico? Or, what is it that sort of narrows the field for you that you've got the direction right?
Right.
And then you start saying yes to those opportunities. And before you know it, you have a specific group of people that you're really shifting. And we don't
Mm,
need to solve all the problems in the world
right.
individually. Like we're
Right.
all together, we get to stand on the people's shoulders before us, and you just take it to one step further.
Mm.
And so I really like having that as a pillar and a piece that's important.
I love that. Thank you. And it's true for anything that we're doing, whether we're choosing our word that's going to carry us through the coming year, whether it's starting a social enterprise, whether it's leaving your corporate job and figuring out what's next, is just to identify that desire. And that takes some time. You're going to hold space for yourself. You're going to get by yourself somewhere, do a pattern interrupt. You can come do a farm stay at the bed and breakfast. You can do something that gets you out of your normal routine and then really investigate what is the problem that you want to solve or what contribution do you want to make, and then like maybe write down all the things that come naturally, but doing it from a place of curiosity and discovery and not, I want to do this and this is the only way that it can happen. And if I don't get $3 million in funding tomorrow, it's not going to ever work. Like
Yeah.
that's obviously going to shut you down.
Yeah. I mean, the way that I think about what you've just said is your strategy can't be your identity.
Mm, I'll be writing that down.
You want to know what your contribution is, and you're open to the strategy, and you can pick a strategy to get there. But when your strategy becomes your identity, it means you can't be open-minded to
Right.
a better way to do things.
Mm.
Often we get locked into our strategy being our identity. And I mean, you can even think of politics in the US, and I don't think we want to go there too much, but
Right.
I'll
I
just,
prefer to not think about
yeah,
politics in the US,
yeah.
but yes, go with your point.
I will just say that, like, the strategy is voting Republican or Democratic, and that shouldn't be your identity,
Right.
because really you have outcomes that are you're tied to, and if somebody can do it better, then the flexibility might be important. But
Right.
yeah, it's when you are like hell bent on that being part of your identity, it makes it very hard to be open minded.
And that open mindedness is the key to everything because we obviously only know what we know.
Yeah, and I think that's actually where the beauty lies. Like,
Yes.
I think for me, I love travel and adventure, especially adventurous travel. And being open-minded is something you do when you travel. Like, you go have those conversations with people on the side of the street, and it just really shifts how you think because you are willing to listen and be open and to a new perspective, which we don't often have in our day-to-day lives. So I love that you mentioned the farm stay, because what I find is like when people are stuck, get out of your day-to-day rhythm
Mm-hmm.
routine, change
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And I often have talked to people who have said, yeah, I went to India for 6 months, or I did this program in Guatemala, or it could even be in the US, of course, and it could be on a weekend, but it's something to get you to see things that you haven't been seeing, to hear things you haven't been open to hearing. And I do believe like people are good. And so when we sort of get out of all these routines, we allow ourselves to become more naturally aligned. And that's where
Mm,
you can really find the magic,
for
and
sure.
not when we're forcing things or trying to be something. And so, yeah, I love that you offer people to come and stay and just connect with nature
Yeah.
and the way of life on a simple
Yes.
level.
Yes. Thank you. There's so much to the pattern interrupt.
Yeah. What have you found with that?
I love, for me, travel. So I also lead culinary trips to France for solo female travelers. And what I love about those trips is, first of all, my chores are not there because I'm a flower farmer and there's just always something happening here. Even when everything is resting in the winter, there's weather that requires labor and all sorts of things. So I love that my responsibilities and my attention and my focus is just as active, but it is in a different place. So
Mm,
I can either focus on me or I can be aware of architecture and timelines, and somebody else is making my food and it's all delicious because I'm in France. And
yeah.
I'm still now I really love all of that, and it's luxurious and fabulous and expansive for me. But what makes it even more enjoyable is that I am also in contribution. So I love the marriage of both of those. I want to be in beautiful spaces and I want to be in service to my clients that are there with me.
Yeah, the transformation. And I love what you said also. And what I'm thinking about is your to-do list goes quiet.
Yeah,
And then all of a sudden
exactly.
you have space for more pleasure and
Yes.
joy. And that is such an important piece.
Yes, and I do delight in the work of my hands. I take pleasure and joy while I'm here as
Yes.
well. And there's a list.
Yeah.
And when I'm gone, the list is different. The list is be present and full of curiosity and discovery, and you don't have to wear rubber boots today. So fun. So I love that you list in all of the things that you do that you are a disruptor for good. I love that descriptive. How has that played into the book, and what made you even decide to write the book?
Yeah. Well, thanks for the question. And I first will just say it's interesting on the disruptor for good because it seems so bizarre and backwards that we have to use disruptor for people who wanting to do good in the world. Like,
Yep.
why are we not shaming the people who are destroying the planet versus having to call out the people who are doing great things in the world and giving them a
Right.
small little category on the side? So disruptor for good is really tapping into sort of the rebel and the anarchist and the activist in people who want to see things done better. And it's just
Yeah.
the irony is that you're a rebel for good and
Right.
disruptor for good, which is really strange. But I was traveling after COVID. As I said, I've got 3 children, and I have to say I was really burnt out after
Mm.
COVID and felt really exhausted and kind of we had a great quality time with family and but just the heaviness of what was happening and I felt like I had completely lost my own rhythm. And
Mm.
so after COVID, my kids had went to a summer camp, and I told my husband I have to go for an adventure, and I'm going to go by myself, and I can't. Nobody can come with me. And Portugal had just opened up, and
Mm.
I was able to book a 2-week trip, and I rented a car, and just said I'm going to go with the flow and go see. I want to know when I'm hungry. I want to know
Oh
what I'm
my
thinking. Like
gosh, I love that.
I don't even know those things. Like it's just everything's just sort of on autopilot and like the
Right.
dishwasher always feels full and
Right? That's how I I had to take a hiatus from cooking after COVID
okay,
too.
yes.
Yeah.
And so I went there and within 48 hours I was walking the streets of Lisbon and I know this sounds like woo-woo and
I
weird, but
love it. Bring it.
anyone who's been creative before or would like it's a thing, it's written about.
Yeah.
But I got this creative download from the universe and it just came through so clearly and of everything I had done to date in my life and career. And I got this download of I have to write a book of another way to do business. And the idea that I got, my first vision was maybe more of a coffee table book, but as I then returned home and started chewing on it, people kept saying to me, "You've got a lot to say. Like you actually have,
Yeah.
good opinions about this, and like we want to hear from you, not just all the other people you want
Mm.
to interview." And so the book is actually a combination. It offers inspiring stories of people who I would say are disruptors for good And the way that I define that is their work is good for them personally and it's good
Mhm.
for the world.
Yeah.
So if you're sacrificing yourself completely, then I call that the unrewarded do-gooder. And it's
Mm.
somebody who's not going to be able to last 90,000 hours, which is the
Yeah.
average career. And so these beautiful people go and do this amazing work, but it's not possible to sustain when you're constantly giving. And so that keeps these beautiful people small. And then
Mm.
on sort of the total flip side, you've got the uninspired achiever, which is somebody who, and sometimes it's out of complete necessity. So there's no judgment on any of these, but
Totally.
it's I just need to make money. Work is money for me, and I'm going to go make the most money I can in the shortest amount of time. And those people, what I find, often end up later in their career having a lot of regret and feel like they're really longing to belong to something bigger than themselves.
Mm.
And so the disruptor for good is where it's like good for you and good for the world. And so the book includes those stories. And then I have like a framework to help get you there. And it's really sort of the inside job that needs to take place. Like you need to understand more about yourself and do that
Right.
reflective work to get yourself aligned and intentional with your choices. And I'm not guaranteeing that I'm going to get you to a calling out of the bat, but I can get you on the way to get to your calling.
Yeah.
And it's just something that takes an investment and a commitment. And so yeah, that's the book, and I'm so excited about it. And I also have a podcast that goes with the book. Both of them are called Work That's Worth It. And the podcast helps highlight and shine light, like I said, on beautiful people who are doing amazing work and they care about the world in some way through their work, and that they are also prioritizing themselves in that
Mm.
work. And so
So good.
what I found is a lot of people don't know what pathways to take. They don't have the exposure. And they, when I graduated from college and then from business school, I felt like it was really binary. You're either doing good or you're making money. And
Mm.
is it income or impact? And guess what? You can have both. And it's emerging and becoming more and more common. But I think just having that mindset, even if you're starting a business, how can you have both? How can you build in both is important.
Oh, it's so good. It's amazing. And I'm so happy that you took that time and space for yourself and prepared your heart to receive that beautiful download and then take the further inspired action to actually write the book, to connect
Yeah.
with these people. Is there a story that really stands out to you in the book? Someone that you enjoyed highlighting?
Oh, I mean, there's so many beautiful stories, but what I'll say is like a common theme. And like, it's amazing how
Mm,
similar the people I interviewed were on
for
their
sure.
outlook on life. But one thing that is pretty common, which, you know, for your listeners, if they have children to think about, and maybe even for them, retapping into what they're calling maybe at the stage of life is often people know what they love and want to do at a really young age. They
Yeah.
already have something they care about
Yeah.
and they're talked out of it.
Hmm.
And they're told, don't do that. That won't make money. That won't fulfill you. And I think that's because we're thinking in quite binary terms. And especially young people coming in the world today, like cost of housing is more expensive, college tuition is more expensive. Like they have a big hurdles to get through. So I completely understand having income as part of the equation. But what if they could include something they care about as well? And that would just be so much more fulfilling. And so I think what one of the common themes that I talk to and people when preparing for the book and doing research is people say, I knew what I wanted to do then, and now I'm
Mm,
finally returning to it. And so, you know, for the parents out there, just think twice by about asking your children to abandon
yeah.
their something that they really want to work towards and build their direction for your ideas of how you see the world, especially because work is changing so fast
Hmm.
that we don't actually know how to prepare our kids other than keeping them curious,
Yep.
making sure they can relearn and are always curious to learn. And so, really that is like and giving them confidence to go do what they need to do. I think that theme is an important part.
Right. Oh, thank you for that. It's so interesting. I mentioned about the trips that I lead, and my client tends to be a woman in midlife that is, finally saying yes to herself or something that, along those lines, or even everyone in her world is saying, oh my gosh, you have to go on this trip. But she feels a little bad about leaning into something that feels so delicious and good and almost
Yeah.
extravagant because
Yeah.
she's usually providing such for the people in her charge, right?
Yeah.
So, in the coaching and wisdom and information given to these women as they are looking at what their next chapter is going to look like, so much of it is, well, think back when you were young and what did you lose time doing and what did you love? So I'm
Yeah.
hearing that out of one side of my existence. Listener, you can't see me, but I'm using my my right hand. And then out of the other side, I'm raising an 11-year-old who, in her former school experience, was being asked to put those things that she's passionate about and creative about and put those aside and, for lack of a better word, conform to what this classroom dynamic is requiring, because there's some boxes on this report that I have to check and I can't check your box,
Yeah.
which whew, which then makes me think, oh my gosh, well,
Yeah.
I'm your mother for a reason, and we'll be looking at other schools. And it was fascinating. Instead of telling her, well, that's just the way it is, and we've got afternoons and weekends for your creative pursuits, and create a woman who will later be my client, that's terrible. So I was so excited to witness that and be present to witness that and have the courage to do something on her behalf to shift her experience.
Yeah. And those are choices that we do get to make. But I mean, the funnel for this narrow definition of success is
Yeah.
so intense.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to figure out why university students aren't having more fun in college. Not that it's only for fun, but I think it's a really great window to explore and be all these different
Yeah.
kind of people that you could be, that you choose later. Let go the reins a little bit. Also, detach a little bit from the identity that you've been raised in, so that you can really, if you come back to it, it's because you want it. And
Right.
I think what I see is people especially in the top universities, the kids there are so focused that they're all the summer's internship and all the classes are sort of, how does this have a return on investment? Like, what skills am I learning? And I, looked into it a little bit, and people who are arriving on campuses and as freshmen are already having to sign up in the investment bank or consultant clubs that they have to get accepted into, which even gives them the opportunity to potentially get those jobs after college. And those can be great jobs. I'm not saying that those aren't the right jobs, but an 18-year-old doesn't know, especially an 18-year-old that hasn't had a chance to do other things.
Right.
And the reason that they're trying to get people so young, even that first summer between freshman and sophomore year in college, is because the tech guys have come in and taken all their good people, in quotes, in year 4. And so they thought, okay, well, we've got to get them younger.
Right.
But that's not in the interest of the child or our society, because sort of having time to let down your hair and be much more adventurous. That window changes as we get more responsibilities in life.
Yeah.
And to miss out on that, I think, it was, you're saying you're working with people later who really didn't get to pursue their or find something that really resonated. Well, we're going to have a lot more of those in
Yeah.
that case. And I think that's disappointing.
Yes. Oh my goodness. It's such good work and it's big work. So thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you
And
for doing
actually,
it.
I love that you also brought up guilt earlier as well. And I just want to have a comment on that.
Please.
I have learned to love all those feelings and
Yeah,
emotions because they're telling me something.
that's right.
Like if it's guilt, like maybe I need more alignment or maybe I need to let go of something, but just go think about what is it there for? What is it serving me? And desire, I find like, especially people trying to do good things and playing too small. If you want to be able to go on vacation, take note.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with wanting to go on vacation and having the finances to be able to do it. So take note of what you want and then go build the life around that and look for opportunities that can give you that. And so
Yes,
I think, especially guilt is such a wasted emotion.
for
If you
sure.
take the information in, but don't linger on it.
Right. And it's true. We want to acknowledge those uncomfortable, quote unquote, negative emotions. I was doing a practice taught by a facilitator at a retreat I went to last year that she wrote, her name's Amber Ray, and she wrote the Feelings Journal. And the prompt was to identify any negative emotion that you're feeling. And then in your journal, hey, Wendy, this is fear speaking, and this is what I need you to know. And just write free form from fear to me. And there's this separation that make the words come easily through my hand, but also this witnessing that allowed me to read the words and acknowledge and soothe and say, I appreciate that that's how you feel. And I've got this. We're
Yeah.
okay. And we're going to go for it anyway. But thank you for speaking up. You're welcome. You're welcome to be in the car, but you're not going to drive.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really important because we weren't, I wasn't um practiced in feeling all of my emotions, only the ones that were tolerated or celebrated um, in my home growing up. And so I'm new to identifying something that feels scary.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important. And all of those practices make us stronger and more aligned and more aware so that we can see what our next step is.
Yeah, 100%.
It's so good. I have loved this conversation, Georgie. Thank you for your time. Please tell everyone where they can find and follow you, how they can get the book, listen to the podcast, all the good things.
Yeah. Well, Work That's Worth It is the name of the podcast and the book. And you can get it on all the places you normally get a book and the podcast on anywhere where you like to listen to podcasts. And I also have a website, which is georgienthoven.com. And hopefully you have show notes and we can pop it
Oh,
in there.
yes.
And because the spelling might be a little complicated, and you can find me on LinkedIn and my formal name, which is Georgina Enthoven. And anyway, would love to know more about your listeners and connect and have them get the book. Would be amazing.
Yes, perfect. Well, we will absolutely link everything down in the show notes. But thank you so much for being here. And thank you for the great work that you're doing in the world.
Yeah, as the same to you. Lovely to meet you. And I'm just glad we had a chance to talk.
Thank you. Me too. I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. As always, any links or notes mentioned can be found at phineaswrighthouse.com in the podcast section of our site or in the show notes below. And if you haven't connected with me personally, come find me on Instagram at Phineas Wrighthouse and let me know you listened to this episode. I'd love to get to know you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I know your days are full, and I'm really grateful that you chose to spend some of your precious time right here. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of these delightful conversations. I'll see you next week.